This is Pastor Tim coming to you again from Bend and Lomita United Methodist Churches. We are talking about the Bible because we think it's important to have a point of view into the Bible, having some tools for which to understand the Bible. So we've been telling the stories and trying to make them plain or make them understandable for folks who they can read into the Bible and discover the deeper truths of God. We have been talking about the Hebrew children in the wilderness. They have left slavery in Egypt and have gone into the wilderness. There's a couple of significant tales that we want to include I think are fascinating. One of them is about the snakes in the wilderness. It seems at some point along the way they came around a whole bunch of snakes. We ought to be able to understand that here in Central Texas because we have an abundance of rattlesnakes, so we know what it's like to have snakes around and have to be cautious. But the snakes were biting people, and so they plead to Moses, please do something. And so Moses speaks to God and says, what do we do? People are dying of snake bites. And so God says, make a bronze serpent on a staff. And then when you're going to hold it up in front of the people. So they created this bronze snake around a staff. And it was a symbol in the ancient world, but it is part of the background for what becomes the medical symbol for our medical community around the world. So this is a part of what it takes to be healed. To the healing arts. And so Moses will hold up the snake and tell everyone to look on the snake, by looking on the snake, they can be healed from their afflictions. And I think that's indeed what happens. But I think it's symbolic of the fact that sometimes we have to look our own infirmities in the eyes. We have to look to our loneliness. We have to look at our own character. We have to look at our relationships. We have to look at our own faith with an unflinching eye, because it's in looking back into that, the very nature of ourselves and nature of our world, that we can discover that which will cure us. The cure is actually in the malady. It's in the illness. So we shouldn't be afraid to look back and look at the hard things. We should be willing to do that with trusting God that God will hold us steady, that they will not be overcome. So sometimes we have to take a hard look at ourselves, and in looking at the things that hurt us, we can find the things that heal us. God is a God of second chances, and God is a God of healing. And that's what happens in this story. The second story is one of leadership. Moses is working like crazy trying to settle the disputes among people, and there are hundreds of thousands of Hebrews in the wilderness, so it's quite difficult. It's quite taxing. And his father-in-law comes along and says, "You're doing too much." He said, "You need to assign people to do some of these tasks that you're doing." And so he divides people into groups, and he puts people over them, puts judges and leaders to decide disputes and decide directions, make some of the minor decisions that don't include the whole group. They can be settled in a smaller way. And by designating those leaders, those judges, Moses relieves his own stress by not having to do everything. So sometimes we try to do everything, and we don't need to do that. We need to assign those tasks to other people, and then in assigning those tasks, we create community. We create leaders for the future, and it actually makes the community better. But we have to trust those leaders. Moses had to learn to trust those people to make the right decisions and to take the weight off of him. And when we do trust others, even if they fail sometimes, we still leave them enough room to make their own decisions. We don't have to decide for them. We give somebody a task, we let them do it. And so that's a good lesson in leadership that Moses learned from his father-in-law and taught us along the way. All right, we'll see you the next time when we talk about the Ten Commandments.